What's going on, Nasteey Nation? It's Nasteey, and in today's video, I'll be answering some questions from some of you guys. If you have a question yourself about support or anything else related to League of Legends or my channel, then be sure to join my Discord and submit your questions in the Questions for Nasteey channel. You can join my Discord using the link in the description. I'll be looking forward to seeing what questions you all have in store for me, but without further ado, let's get into the video. The first question I have here is asking for my opinions on Guardian Morgana. So the thing about the Guardian page and supports, and more specifically the Guardian page on caster supports, I use it sometimes. For example, when I'm playing a champion like Nami, which is a champion I'm playing quite often these days, I pretty much almost always go Airy. But if I'm in a lane matchup that I'm not feeling super comfortable in, if I'm in a lane matchup that I feel like there's a high chance of me dying, I want to have a little bit more defensive stats. That's why I will go Guardian. I will go into the resolve tree. That's why I do that with Nami. However, when it comes to playing Morgana, Morgana never really is in that situation where there's a chance of her losing the lane, because Morgana isn't necessarily like a hard carry champion. She's the type of champion that you pick just so that you can counter another champion and so that you can go neutral in the lane. So she's not the type of champion that you should ever have to rely on having that extra little bit of defensive stats, because you should never be in a position to be in any danger. As long as you're playing things properly and as long as you are spell shielding at the right times, you should be fine. So I wouldn't recommend Guardian on Morgana. The next question asks, I once saw a video where I saw a Recon player at level 1 just walk up and autos the tower to proc spell thieves, then he dies, buys a control ward. Is this something that should be done? The short answer is no. This is pretty much just trolling, is what I would say, because you have to look at the upsides versus the downsides. The upside here is maybe you're able to proc your spell thieves, maybe you grab a control ward, like, cool, that's something extra, I suppose. But the downside is you're potentially giving the enemy team first blood, so you just have to kind of weigh your options here, and the upside isn't anywhere near worth enough, I would say, in comparison to what you could potentially be giving the other team. So don't ever consider doing anything like this. The next question asks, how does healing Alistar sound? And then they go on to give a bunch of examples about how you can go Revitalize instead of Overgrowth and build stuff like Redemption and Ardent Sensor. Overall, I would say that I kind of see where you're coming from here, because there is some aspects of Alistar's kit that would enable this to work. But overall, that is not why you pick Alistar. What you're essentially looking to do here by building items and taking runes and doing this like healing Alistar playstyle, what you're essentially doing is playing what or trying to do what another champion could do, but just worse. You don't pick Alistar because you want to buff up your teammates and heal your teammates. You pick Alistar because your team needs a tank, your team needs CC, your team needs engage. There's no need to try to force something to work. If you wanted to play a champion that, you know, goes Revitalize, that builds stuff like Ardent Sensor and Redemption, then you're better off just picking a caster support, because they're going to do all those things but better. So yeah, that's not why you pick Alistar, and that's why I wouldn't recommend it. This next question asks, have you ever done or would you ever be willing to do support in-houses or Howling Abyss with your followers, subs, and or patrons? So this is something that I have done in the past. I've played viewer games from time to time, but as a whole, you know, but just the balance in my life, trying to balance stuff like school, family, friends, also YouTube and streaming and stuff like that. I just kind of struggle to find the time to do stuff like this. If I am going to go on my computer and play League of Legends, I feel like I'm kind of wasting my time if I'm not doing something that's going to benefit my rank. These days, I don't have quite as much time to grind ranked as I would like to. So if I am playing League, I like to usually take that time to play ranked. So as much as I appreciate you guys and as much as I would like to have more time to do that, right now I'm kind of just focusing on my rank, but that's something I'm definitely keeping in the back of my head moving forward. This next question asks, I want to learn more about how to main brand and how to counter Pyke as brand. Well, so there's technically two questions here, right? The first question is how to main brand. My two pieces of advice that I give when it comes to playing brand is make sure that you're positioning correctly and make sure that you understand your combos as much as you possibly can. Brand is a very immobile champion, and he's a champion that will die a lot, but a lot of people kind of get that, you know, mixed up, and they think, oh, I'm dying a lot as brand, but that's just part of playing brand. That's gonna happen. That's somewhat true, but there's also still a limit. Like if you're dying more than 6 times in a game as brand, you're probably not positioning correctly. So that is one thing to keep in mind. The next thing is just to, you know, try to figure out your combos. You know, I actually have a brand guide out on YouTube, so instead of going too in depth on that, I'll just recommend that you go check that out. I do go into combos in that video, so yeah, definitely check that out. The second half of your question, how to counter Pyke as brand. Honestly, this isn't a matchup that you should probably be finding yourself in. Brand isn't a good blind pick champion because you can get countered very easily. So you should almost never be in this matchup because you should never blind pick brand, and you should never be picking brand into Pyke. If you do though, just try to position behind the minions, probably take 2 armor runes, and that'll be your best bet, but that is a really tough lane matchup to play around. This next question asks, how is anyone supposed to play around bruisers as a class? They're so broken. So the thing about bruisers is more times than not, they're very immobile, and thus they are very easy to kite out. So whenever you're up against a really strong bruiser, that is usually the game plan. The game plan is to kite and also go with a front to back mentality. So a lot of people, when they're in a game, they have this mentality that they always need to try to dive the back line, because more times than not, the back line includes like an AP mage and an ADC, and those are usually the people that are carrying the game, so you feel like you have to kill them first. But if you are up against a bruiser who's kind of, you know, just solo carrying the game, you don't actually want to be diving the back line. You want to just try to kite out the bruiser and have this front to back strategy where you focus on the front line first, you focus on the melee champions and the bruisers, and then after you're able to kill them, then you push forward to the back line. So that's my advice for handling bruisers. This next question asks, are you still interested in continuing the podcast? I really enjoyed the pilot. For those of you guys who don't know what he's talking about, I had a podcast that I started on my channel a while back called the Real Talk Podcast. This isn't something that I'm necessarily thinking about continuing. The thing about the podcast is it just takes a lot of time to prep, it takes a lot of time to find people to do it with, and it takes a lot of time to shoot. So overall, it's just very time consuming, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty busy right now, especially with school. I'm trying to finish up college right now in my last semester. So this isn't something that I'm necessarily planning on continuing, but you guys can let me know if you guys have checked that out already. Let me know down in the comments if you guys liked it. If you guys haven't seen it already, feel free to go check it out. Just type in like Real Talk Nasteey or something like that. Let me know what you guys think about it. But for now, unless I hear any other kind of opinions, any overwhelming opinions from you guys, I probably won't be continuing that. The next question asks, when is it worth it to die and protect your ADC as a support? Should you do it? The only time you necessarily want to be saving your ADC is if you think that there's potential for both of you to get out, or if there's potential for one of you to get out. Because if there is potential for one of you to get out, you'd rather make that swap, you'd rather make that sacrifice where you take their place, you're the one that dies and you keep them alive. But a lot of times I see people make the mistakes of, their ADC is guaranteed already dead, and if you were to go to try to save them, you would be dying yourself. That's a mistake I see a lot of people making. If they're already dead, you can't save them. Sometimes, again though, there are these situations in which you could probably swap places with them, throw your body on the line, throw yourself in the way, and help them get out of there. Because at the end of the day, ADCs will provide more for a team than a support will. So if you can make that swap, then that's something you definitely want to be trying to do. This next question asks, what are some strategies to defend against assassins as support? So this is a little tricky because sometimes if you're playing a champion like Nami, then you don't have a whole lot of options if they go on you. The bright side of that though is if an assassin does go on the support, at least they are wasting everything that they have on a support rather than a carry. If they end up going on to like a carry of yours though, in that situation, all you want to do is just focus all your peel on them. So again, we'll go back to the Nami example. If like a Zed tries to ult your ADC, you just try to make sure that you RQ them or QR them. If you're playing someone like Leona, rather than engaging on an enemy team, you'd probably want to hold on to your CC for when the assassin goes onto your carries and then just CC him down. That's probably my advice for going up against assassins as a support. This next question asks, what are your thoughts about Nami in the current patch and the current meta? So Nami is one of the only champions in the game that personally I feel like I have always had success on this champion. Going back to all the way back in season 3 when I started playing this champion, Nami has always been a good champion. She's always been at the top of the meta, or at least fitting somewhere into the meta. She's always had a consistently high win rate. She works in just about every single rank. So I know you're asking me about the current patch, the current meta, but I can't remember a single time in my history of playing this game in which Nami was a bad pick. She's actually my best champion right now. Finished off the season with a 60% or higher win rate on her. Pretty much spammed her all the way to Masters, finishing Masters for the first time in my career. So yeah, overall, I kind of have a soft spot for Nami, which is maybe why I'm hyping her up so much. But honestly, I can't remember a single time in which Nami was not a viable, or at least just a good pick. This next question asks, which building is considered superior on Sona? Full AP, full support, or hybrid? So Sona isn't a champion that I have practiced a whole lot in the past, but I went ahead and did some research for you, and it's looking like across every single rank, across every single region as well, that the support build for Sona is going to be the best. So building items such as Unholy Grail, Ardent Censer, Redemption, Locket, stuff like that, that does seem to be the best bet. So again, this isn't like an expert opinion because it's not a champion that I play, but just going ahead and doing some research, it looks like the support build is going to be the highest win rate. I think that the other build options, the AP and the hybrid build, both of those will probably be viable and they probably work. But again, if you just want to go with what has the most success, it's going to be the support build. This next question asks, when should you pick Thresh and when would you consider other hook-based champions, Pyke, Nautilus, Blitz, Leona? So this is a question that I'm actually going to answer based on your elo, your rank. So I think that some champions have much higher skill caps than others, and for those reasons they can be better or worse in certain ranks. So a champion like Thresh, I probably wouldn't be picking if you are, I would say, below platinum. Yeah, let's just make platinum the cutoff here. So champions like Thresh and champions like Pyke, I would probably say don't play if you're lower than platinum. Champions like Blitzcrank, Nautilus, Leona though, those are really straightforward, simple champions that are really easy to carry as. All hook champions have a lot of carry potential, but because these champions are a little bit easier in lower ranks, you will have a lot more success on them. So I'll just base it off of rank. So Thresh and Pyke above or platinum or above. Below platinum, champions like the Nautilus, the Blitzcrank, and then Leona is what I would recommend. And the final question of the video asks, could you explain what styles of ADCs go best with each style of support? So I'll just give you a really short and simple answer here. Basically, you just want supports and ADCs that kind of are looking for the exact same thing. So I'll give you an example here. A champion like Draven is a pretty aggressive champion. It's a champion that has a lot of damage, a lot of early game threat, has potential to, you know, get a lot of stuff done in the lane phase. Top of that, if they are successful in the lane phase, they can cash in, and that snowballs to them to the mid to late game. So for that reason, you're gonna want a champion who's also aggressive in the early game. So like those hook champions that we were just talking about, any of those, you know, if you pair Draven with a Blitzcrank, that's perfect. They're want to accomplish the same thing. On the other hand, if you have a champion like Jinx or Ezreal, these are champions that kind of rely on the mid to late game. They need a couple items before they can start dishing out damage. In a situation like that, you don't want to pick something like Blitzcrank because you're not gonna be on the same page with your ADC. So instead, it's probably better to play something like a caster, maybe something like Nami or Soraka or Janna, champion that you can kind of just sustain the lane phase with, kind of just hang out, help them farm, and then play for the mid to late game. So that's kind of a shorter answer, but essentially you're just looking to pick an ADC that accomplishes the same thing that the support wants to do, or support that accomplishes the same thing that an ADC wants to do. Well, alright then, ladies and gentlemen, that should wrap up the end of this video. Don't forget to join the Discord and submit your questions in the Questions for Nasteey channel to be featured in a future Ask Nasteey video. Again, the link to my Discord should be down in the description below. Anyways, I hope you guys were able to find this video helpful, and if you were, then be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Also, be sure to check out all my social medias on your way out. Links to all of them will also be down in the description below. Anyways, I would just like to thank each and every one of you who did stick around to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.